Hey everybody, it's Chuck. Welcome back to the Bee Lab. I've got something I want to talk to you about today that kind of sparked some interest. This kind of goes back a few years. This is about swarm capture buckets. I made this one, gosh, it's probably been 5-6 years now. I made this out of an old clear water jug, and I 3D printed this little handle so that this handle would go ahead and go on my extension pole, kind of like this. And I went up there and would shake the bees and they would go in here. And it worked okay. But there's definitely one thing about this style of bucket and also the 5-gallon bucket modifications is the bees do not like to be in here. They go in here, they swarm around, and I even had a lid mechanism I put on here to try to make it work better. It didn't work very, very good. I have an improvement. And this improvement, and I'm gonna give the credit to who I first saw this from. His name is Randall Carter. I think he's got a YouTube channel. I know he has a YouTube channel, Carter Hill Honeybees. I was watching the video. I think I saw this video first time 2 years ago when I was probably working on some of these designs. And he used a wire mesh trash basket. And he was giving credit to somebody named Ricky in his video. So Ricky, if you're out there too, credit to you for this idea, even if it was an accidental discovery. And this year, I saw Mr. Ed talking about this. I believe it was with Randy Dirt Rooster on Fred Dunn's channel. And I was like, you know, I remember that video. And I went back and I watched Randall's video again. And there is something to the wire mesh that I think is worth giving a try. And it's the fact that when you shake bees into this wire mesh bucket, they don't swarm in here and fly away. They actually kind of cling onto the basket, both on the inside and they'll reconvene on the outside. And almost like a swarm reacher where you put it up, a frame up in the tree and the bees go to it. When you shake the bees into this basket, they actually go to this basket, most likely because of the smell of hopefully the queen or the other bees in there.
So as you can see right here, most of the bees are on the bucket. I've still not dumped it in the hive. Bees are all in the bucket, should be. I can't see down in there, but yes, they are. You'll not see this with a 5-gallon bucket.
So I'm gonna make a new swarm catching basket out of this, but with some improvements on what was originally what I saw Randall make and some other things. And I've come up with a design using a square trash basket, and this is a little bit smaller than a 5-gallon bucket. I got these off of Amazon. I think both of them, it was like $20 or something. You can find a wire mesh bucket, you know, and I can give you the dimensions of this, but by the time you go to Amazon, they may change. My point is get something about the size of a 5-gallon. This is a little bit smaller, I think, but I think on the end of a long extension pole, this little smaller might be a little bit better. Fred Dunn made a good point in his video last week about square versus round. And he made the point that a square basket you could set on its edge and let the bees walk into a hive. I liked that idea, so I went with square also. So shout out to Fred Dunn for that idea. But I'm gonna make another modification. And of course, you know I have a 3D printer and it's with my 3D printing tools I have. I have modified a extension pole thread. So the female end, this is the male end of the extension pole. I've modified the female end inside of a cap. And I've got one right here too. And then this cap is designed to go on top of a 1-inch piece of PVC. This happens to be 1-inch conduit, but the PVC is the same. And this is the way it looks when it's done. So 1-inch piece of PVC going into a cap, and the cap goes onto the PVC, and then the inside of that cap is the threaded end. So basically, I can take my extension pole, it goes inside of the PVC, which acts as additional support. So the entire lateral force of the pole isn't on just that one little thread. It can kind of go on this PVC, and it goes up into the top and then threads on. So this is my final product, and I've got another one I'm gonna make here to show you how I'm gonna make it. So that's what it looks like. I am gonna put this piece of 3D design on Thingiverse. There'll be a link in the description. And it's nothing fancy, but you know, it's a design. I've got a few little tweaks in here to where I've got some zip tie holes engineered in there so that I can attach it. things like that. And it's creased on there, so it's jam fit. So yeah, I'm also going to put in this video a cross-section view of what this looks like on the inside so you can visualize what I'm talking about. But this is just going to thread on there. So the first thing, and I've already cut this piece of PVC, so it goes right there on it. I'm just going to use a little bit of epoxy inside of this cap to glue it on. You could probably use PVC glue or whatever you like. This is now going to be permanent. I don't want this to come on and off of this little piece of PVC. And any additional strength I can give to this cap that has the threads on it to stick tight onto this PVC, the better. So just a little bit of epoxy. And these ends don't really matter. They're about the same. And I'm just going to push that on nice and tight. So that's essentially epoxied on there. And then this is just going to be zip tied on here. Now this, I might have to put my glasses on to do this because I've got to essentially get inside of the holes. And I don't know, I'm using the corner versus the middle for a little bit of a structural support. So if this were right here, I'm just going to put maybe this right through there. Let's see how that works. Okay, hopefully I sped that up for you so you didn't have to watch me fiddling with my glasses on to get this on here. But now you can see I've got this securely tied on here with 4 zip ties. It's on there. The metal's going to bend before this comes off. I could even go with more zip ties if you needed more strength. I've got a threaded insert for the pole at the top of this cap. This cap is securely on the 1-inch PVC. And now all I would need to do is take my pole, insert it into the top of the cap, and now thread it into the cap. And now it's on there, and this is now my swarm catch bucket that is modified from the, I believe Randall called it his scoop and score mechanism. So in any case, hopefully this is something useful to get you thinking. The novelty behind this design is this wire mesh bucket, not the shape, the size, or the pole. The pole is just me 3D printing something that makes it go on and off very easy, and I can essentially undo this very quickly and throw that in the back of my truck, and I've got 2 of them that work the same way. So that's all this is about. So yeah, let me know what you think. Like I said, I'm gonna put this little cap on Thingiverse for those of you that might wanna try the exact same thing and don't have a 3D printer. Take a look at my design, modify it. The threads on these pole extenders are something called Acme design threads, but they're not exactly like what you would think you would need. I had to modify the threads. They're not exactly standard. I had to use a little bit of a modification on the pitch and the actual angle to get it nice and loose so it would go in and not overly tight. Yeah, leave comments below. Let me know what you think. It's swarm season, so get your swarm scoopers ready, your buckets, or what other methods you might have. I think I'm up to 5 swarms already, so I'm actually running out of hardware to put swarms in, and I've got 3 more in traps that are hanging, waiting for them to be brought back in. In any case, leave a comment below. Click like and subscribe if you like this kind of content. I really appreciate the subscribers, and also we'll see you next time. Have a great day, everybody.